Hello you guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys are all having an amazing day. This video is a little late, but better late than never. We are going to be doing my quarter two wrap up. In the past on my channel, I have done monthly reading wrap ups or done them like every other month. So I've never done a quarterly wrap up before, and the reason why I did it is because it really helped me with pre-filming for Book for the Summer, since I was really busy in the month of June and wanted to get those videos up every day of that week for you guys. And I felt like if I posted wrap ups before Book for the Summer was gonna feel a little bit repetitive, so that's why I did it this way. Let me know if you guys have a preference though, if you prefer the monthly wrap-ups or every other month or every quarter, just because I'm genuinely curious. I love filming wrap-up videos though, because I just get to blab about all the books that I've read recently. This wrap-up is covering quarter two, so April, May, and June, and in total I read 20 books. I'm gonna have tons of other stats up here on the screen right now as well, so you guys can get a little bit of a better peek into what my reading has been like for the past quarter. I feel like the past 3 months have kind of been mid, honestly, reading wise. I've been reading a lot of books that I've been so excited for, which has been great, obviously, but said books unfortunately haven't really been what I thought they were going to be, and I just didn't really enjoy them that much. So I've been kind of feeling a little slumpy over the past few months, but you're gonna see at the end of this video that I've had some great books that I've read recently, and I obviously don't want to say it too soon, but I kind of feel like I'm falling back in love with reading again. Obviously I'll always love reading, but I feel like my want to read, especially like the amount that I want to read, will always ebb and flow, and it does depend on the books you're reading, but it's also dependent on my mood too. And I feel like the weather is just so nice out, so grabbing a good book, going to the pool, going to the park, just reading outside for some weird reason just makes me want to read more. So I am pretty happy that I've been liking and loving a lot of the books that I've been reading recently, and without further ado, let's go ahead and actually start with the wrap up. Starting off with the first book that I read in April, and that was Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. This is dual POV, and we're following our two main characters, Xavier and Samantha. Xavier is a vet, and they end up meeting at his vet clinic. One thing leads to another, and they end up going on a date together that goes so well. They both like each other a lot, have such an amazing time, and then life ends up getting in the way. I feel like that's all I can really say about the plot, because when I read this, I didn't really know what it was about, and I think that if you're going into it, you might prefer it that way. And honestly, saying more might be deemed as a spoiler, so I'm not gonna say anything else. I did not like this book at all, unfortunately, and you guys know if you've been watching my channel for a while, I love Abby Jimenez. The Part of Your World interconnected standalone series has 2 5 stars from me, so in my mind I was really looking forward to this and just so excited for it. And I feel like in the past with books, whenever I've hyped them up so much in my head, it can kind of ruin the reading experience for me, but I've been able to now not let my expectations bleed into what my actual thoughts and feelings are on the book. This book had insta-love. It was super repetitive. It was also just so sad, to the point where it was almost too sad. I feel like the characters in this book were also dealing with a conflict that wasn't going to be settled until one of them folded on something that was like really important to them. So the ending just like didn't hit for me because of that reason, and it almost makes me wish they had a different conflict in general, because I think that I could have enjoyed the story a little bit more if it didn't feel like we were going around and round and round and just doing like the same thing over and over again. In the past with Abby Jimenez books, I feel like she does a perfect mixture of lighthearted, funny, rom-com, has all the jokes, and then also has like so many deeper things going on in the books that you don't really expect, and then you're crying on your couch. This book had such like a sad and almost depressing tone that those more not even lighthearted moments, they were silly compared to what was actually going on in the book that was like very serious. And because of the story that she was telling and how serious it was, it just didn't work with this story in my opinion. There was also just like a lot of weird things that like didn't need to happen that I think were meant to be funny, but I didn't enjoy it. And there was also a lot of references to Rhysand from the ACOTAR series, and I feel like modern day references don't normally bother me, but it was to the point where it was too many references, so I noticed it very obviously, and I just didn't really like it. It took me out of the story, and this just is unfortunately not my favorite Abby Jimenez book. Next up we have Fearless by Lauren Roberts. This is the finale to the Powerless trilogy by her. This is a fantasy book set in a world with elites and ordinaries. Elites have powers and ordinaries are just normal humans, and in the first book you find out all the information as to why the ordinaries are exiled and why they're not allowed in the kingdom of Isla anymore. We're following our two main characters, Peyton and Kai. It's dual POV. Peyton is an ordinary posing as an elite, and Kai is actually the prince and the king's enforcer, and he's also a super powerful elite. Now, I loved the first Powerless book. It was a 5-star read for me. It was so good. Reckless? The second one, no ma'am. Which is weird because I also love the powerful novella she came out with. The conclusion of the series was just so repetitive. I feel like we had so many things left unanswered too whenever we got to the end, which she's writing another novella that I guess is going to give us some of the answers, but I feel like we don't have all the answers still. I don't know if she's gonna write another series or exactly what's going on, but I feel like at the end of the day, I was just expecting a lot more. It was very repetitive. It kind of mirrored the first book in a way. And there was just a lot of things with the plot that were just so like messy, and almost the entirety of this book could have been fixed with a simple conversation between the brothers. Now, there were still things that I really enjoyed about this book. It gave me the feelings that Powerless did at some points, just because it was like a little bit similar. And I like the banter, I like the back and forth, I like the cat and mouse, but at points it becomes too much, which is why I'm rating this 3 stars, because there are some things that I enjoyed about it, but other things, it's just like why? You know, like that's the best way I can describe it to you without spoiling what's actually in the book. I'm glad that this trilogy is over. I just really wish I would have liked the conclusion to it a little bit more. I'm glad that I liked it more than Reckless, but I feel like having a first book in a fantasy series being a 5-star is so rare for me that going into the rest of the books, I was so excited, and I don't know, I'm just like let down by this book, and I feel like that's how I've been feeling with a lot of the books that I've been reading recently, honestly. Then I read Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton. This is a memoir about her life. It says everything I know about, and then crossed out are parties, dates, friends, jobs, life, and then Love Is Still Normal. I actually listened to this on audiobook. I'm not gonna rate it because it's a memoir, and I only rate memoirs if they're 5 stars. This is on so many people's lists of books to read in your 20s, and I do agree. I do recommend this. However, I feel like with where I'm at in my life currently, I didn't relate to it. I feel like Dolly Alderton and I are just very different, so I think that's why I didn't really enjoy it that much or didn't really relate as much to it. So I would definitely recommend this to you if this sounds like something you could relate to more or less, if you're like in your younger 20s or even in your later 20s and you're more of like a similar phase in your life right now as Dolly Alderton. But I didn't relate to it, and I feel like with a memoir I have to relate to it or I have to be really intrigued, and I just wasn't really either of those, unfortunately. But I do know so many people absolutely love and adore this book, so definitely give it a chance if it sounds good to you. Then I read one of the Skyward Flight novellas. I ended up reading the second one, which is called Read On. These are by Brandon Sanderson and a part of his Skyward series. This is technically book or novella 2.2, so you read the first 2 books, then you read 2 novellas, then you read the 3rd book, and then you read the last novella, and then you read the 4th book, and you're done with the series. A little bit confusing, but once you get to each book, it's just really not. It's kind of straightforward. I actually enjoyed both of the novellas that I've read so far from this collection so much. They might be some of my favorite novellas that I've ever read. I like the first one, Sunreach, a little bit more than Read On, but I still really enjoyed Read On. The Skyward series is following our main character Spensa, and her world has been at war since before she was born, and this is a sci-fi series, so they've been being attacked by these aliens, and she lives with humans on the planet of Detritus, and the heroes of her world, who are the only people who are keeping the humans safe, are the pilots, and she's always wanted to be a pilot. So throughout the books, you're going through the motions of Spensa's time while she's learning everything about becoming a pilot, and you go on different little adventures with her, but you only get her POV so far in the 3 books that I've read. So these novellas are all from different POVs, which I love so much because the found family in this series is just so fun and adds so much to the story that being able to finally get other POVs of other characters has really just added a lot more to the story than just getting Spensa's POV. You got to see what was going on in a different planet and also learn a lot more about the political dynamics that are going on in this series, which the political dynamics are so good and so genius. This makes me so excited to read more Brandon Sanderson because I've only read his YA series so far, which is Skyward, and I cannot even imagine what I'm about to get into with his adult series. I'm so excited. Then I read the second book in the Natural series, Killer Instincts by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I read the first one almost 2 years ago. These are YA mysteries, and if you've been watching my channel for a while, you know I don't do scary, but I feel like more recently, in like the past like year, I've honestly come to love a mystery book here and there as a palate cleanser, and this series is so fast-paced and it's so fun. So these are perfect palate cleansers, and honestly, I wish I would have continued the series a little bit sooner. I think it just scared me a little bit whenever I read the first one back in the day, whenever I read it 2 years ago, that I was nervous to continue it, but I'm really glad that I'm continuing it now, and hopefully I can finish all of them before the summer is over. This series is described by many as YA Criminal Minds, and it's just the best way to describe it. I think I'm gonna rate this a 4.25. I feel like the first one I rated a 4-star, and it was still really fun, fast-paced, but this one kind of brought in a different element to to it that I really enjoyed, and it kept me on my toes. My adrenaline was pumping, and it was just really fun and fast-paced again. So highly recommend this series. I cannot wait to finish it. Just like the book that I started this video out with, the Abby Jimenez book, I was really excited for this next one and had really high hopes for it, and that is Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. I love Emily Henry. I have 3 5-star reads from her. It is very rare that I have multiple 5-star reads from an author, so when I do, I definitely have higher expectations for those books, and I definitely look forward to them a lot more. I go get them on release day, I start them that day, I stop what I am doing with everything else in my life and consume the media to my fullest extent. First of all, can we talk about the cover? Is this not the most stunning thing you have ever seen? This is the Barnes exclusive edition. When I saw it, I knew I had to have it. It is so beautiful. The pink, the orange, the yellow. Yes, please. So fun and colorful. This book is singular POV, and we are following our main character, Alice. Alice is a writer, and she goes to this island in hopes of writing this very famous woman's biography. She was really famous back in the day, but she's kind of hidden over the past while. So writing her biography would be such a big break and so huge for Alice because so many people would be interested in reading her story. But then comes in our male main character, Hayden. He also wants to write the story, and he has a lot more accolades than Alice does, so she kind of throws up her hands. She's like, well, not getting this because he's here. Margaret, the woman that they're wanting to write the biography for, ends up saying that she's going to do interviews with both of them just to kind of test the waters and see who she feels most comfortable with and who she actually wants to write her biography. So they're both in town, they both end up running into each other a lot, and they kind of work up an unlikely friendship, which eventually ends up leading to more. So Hayden and Alice's relationship is one part of this book. The other part is you get to go kind of back in time with Margaret as she's telling the story of her life. So you're getting quite a bit of Margaret's perspective as well. When I heard the synopsis of this book, I was really excited because it sounded right up my alley, and I think it had a lot of potential with the different levels of storytelling that she was going to go into. But I feel like she was trying to tell 2 different stories that almost didn't connect enough. And because she was telling those 2 different stories, it's like both stories weren't able to be told in a full way to where you felt satisfied at the end of the book. There were a lot of things that were just lacking. Alice didn't really feel like a very dynamic character to me. She didn't really feel very real. There weren't a lot of character traits from her that were very flushed out, which I feel that way with a lot of Emily Henry characters, to where I love them so much because they feel so real. They have so many human emotions and things going on in their brain. You get to know them so well and so deeply over the course of her book. So when I didn't feel that way with Alice, because of the fact that she didn't really have a lot going on or a lot of personality traits or a lot of things explored beyond surface level or being told how she feels about things, I was kind of disappointed with that. The love interest in this book, really loved Hayden. He was great, but their romance felt very insta-lovey, and I think it was because of the pacing that had to be done because they were telling 2 different stories. And I don't know if Emily Henry had like a certain page cap that she had to hit, but I don't think she understands that if this would have been a 600-page book, 800-page book, I don't care how long it would have been. For her to tell both stories completely and fully and very satisfyingly, I would have read it all. I think so many people would have read it all and not cared. And I was very excited to hear about Margaret's story. I was very interested in the things that they were alluding to at the beginning of the interviews. But once we kept going, I was kind of like snoozing a little bit. I feel like I didn't care that much, and then I did care, and then I didn't care. And the thing that I found the most interesting was more towards the end, kind of got brushed over completely. And unfortunately, because of all of those things, this just isn't my favorite Emily Henry book. I think I'm gonna rate it a 3-star because there were things that I did enjoy, but a lot of the different things going on kind of made it a little messy. Like, it wasn't hard to follow, but there were a lot of things that I just like genuinely didn't care that much about, even though the writing was so beautifully done. But it's like the placement of the storytelling and choosing what parts of the stories to tell and what parts to spend time on weren't as well done in my opinion. Next up, we have another book in the Skyward series. This is book 3, and it's called Satanic by Brandon Sanderson. I already explained the basic synopsis of this series, but I think this is my least favorite from the series. I think I'm gonna rate it like a 3.5, 3.75, somewhere in there. I still did enjoy it, and there were redeemable qualities, but there were a lot of moments where I was just a little bit bored or didn't care as much, which I didn't find myself feeling that way in the other 2 books. I think that there were a lot of important things that happened in this book which were needed for us to get to the last book and for things to further along in our knowledge about this world. But this kind of gave a filler book to me, and a lot of people talk about filler books and fantasy and sci-fi series. They are so unnecessary in my personal opinion. There is a way to make information interesting and more intriguing as a part of a plot in a singular book and in a series, and I just feel feel like a filler book has no place in a fantasy or a sci-fi series personally, so I unfortunately didn't love this one as much, but I'm really excited to finish the series. I have one more novella which I'm waiting for my Libby hold on because I think I'm just gonna listen to it, and then I have the final book in the series, so hopefully I can finish that in quarter 3. After that, I ended up reading Lisa Marie Presley's memoir, From Here to the Great Unknown. Her daughter Riley Keough also helped write this as well, and you probably know Riley Keough's name. She plays Daisy Jones in Daisy Jones and the Six, which is the Amazon Prime series. And when I heard that not only Riley Keough, but Miss Julia Roberts herself narrates this audiobook, I said sold. I said yes please, and I put it on immediately. My friend Kristen told me the audiobook was fantastic too, so I was really just excited in general before I even heard who was narrating it, and this is one of my favorite memoirs of all time. It is so well done. Dare I say a 5-star memoir. Just learning about her life and everything that happened involving not only her father being Elvis Presley, but also just in general. It was just so fascinating to hear about everything that happened being a child of a star, being in the public eye, and then later in life whenever her life kind of like slowed down a little bit after Elvis's passing, seeing how she dealt with addiction and her relationship with her kids and just everything that happened in this book. It was just very well written and very well done and very well narrated, and I highly recommend this. I feel like memoirs are a genre that I'm slowly falling more and more and more in love with. They almost feel like a podcast in a way, and I just think it's so interesting to learn about people's lives. So if you're looking for a memoir to read, highly recommend. Then I ended up reading Beg, Borrow, or Steal by Sarah Adams. This was such a sweet surprise. I didn't think I was going to enjoy this as much as I have. I've liked Sarah Adams books in the past, but they're very like hit or miss for me connection wise, and they're more like fun, you know, lighthearted, rom-com-y, not really something that I gravitate towards and I'm like, wow, this is an amazing book, I love it so much. But this one was so different. This book is dual POV, and we're following our two main characters, Emily and Jack, and this is in her little Rome, Kentucky interconnected series. It's the 3rd one. Emily and Jack are both teachers. They actually ended up meeting in college, and they kind of had like a little rivals thing going on. Fast forward to after college, they end up working at the same school, and then Jack moves away, and now all of a sudden he's back, and he's also living right next door to Emily. Now it's the summertime, so they're not working, but since they live next door, there is a little bit of forced proximity. I really like Jack as a mailman character, and I also really liked Emily. She's kind of going on this journey of writing her own book, so I feel like that was really fun to follow. She's a very perfectionist, very older sibling type of person, and I'm not an older sibling, but I feel like I related to her in so many different ways. There was also a lot of talk of a few more realer things that made these characters feel a little bit real, so it was still lighthearted, still very fun, but I feel like this is more of a deeper book for Sarah Adams, and I really enjoyed that. Like as a couple, they just make so much sense together. They're very cute for each other, and I really like the way that they both show up and they care for each other. This is just such a cute book. I think I'm gonna rate this like a 4.5, 4.25. This is honestly just such a strong romance book that I loved so much, and I wasn't expecting to, so I'm really excited for her conclusion to the series. Next, I read Summer Ever After on my Kindle. This is by Courtney Kiesel, and this is part of an interconnected summer series that got released on Kindle Unlimited last year. There's 7 books in the series, and they all got released like one every week, and they're all by different authors, which is honestly kind of fun. But I will say my review on this one doesn't count for my reviews on the other ones. I haven't read the other ones yet. I do want to get to them eventually because they sound fun, but they're all written by different authors, so I feel like it's hard to gauge how I would feel about the other ones based off of this one, because our writing really does make the difference on whether or not I enjoy a book. This book is dual POV, and we're following our two main characters, Walker and Jane. This interconnected series is set on this little island off the coast of Florida called Sunset Harbor, and it's like small town island vibes. Everybody knows everybody. There's no cars. You only get around by walking and golf carts. You have to take a boat to like the mainland of Florida, so it's kind of fun. It gives us small town vibes while also being summery, and it's just a very atmospheric book. This is definitely a rom-com. There are cheesy things. Our main character Jane is going on dates with all these people in the town that she's known for years because she wants to find her soulmate, because she's just such a hopeless romantic, and sometimes she's giving like I'm so quirky, like I just want to find love type vibes, and it's like a little cheesy, but I was willing to look over that just because I was so entertained and having so much fun throughout this book. Like, is this prime literature? No, but was it just so fun and cute and just lighthearted and funny? Funny? Why did I say funny like that? Was it funny and cute? Yes. I also really liked Walker. I feel like he created a lot of great tension between him and Jane, and they had a lot of tension because it is the brother's best friend trope, which I love that trope, don't get me wrong, but the way that his sister and Jane's best friend Capri kind of dealt with the whole situation, I didn't really love it that much. Like, this book is not perfect by any means, but the writing is so easy. It's so atmospheric, so fun, very flirty, very summery, and I rated it 4 stars. I really liked it a lot, and if you're looking for something just to fly through something really really easy and bingeable to read over the summer, I feel like this would be a great option, and I'm really interested to see what I think about the rest of the series when I eventually get to it. The next book I also read on Kindle Unlimited, it is the first book in the Murderbot Diaries. This one is called All Systems Red. This is a sci-fi series following Murderbot, who is hired out to different groups of people to protect them and kind of be a bodyguard, but Murderbot in his downtime is a reality TV show fiend. I got this recommendation from Katie's Reading because they just sounded fun, and they're actually really short. This first one was only 144 pages, and I feel like whenever I am feeling a little bit slumpy, and as you can see, a lot of the books that I had read recently weren't really my cup of tea to be drinking, perhaps, if you watch Love Island this season. I have a pot. If you know, you know. So being able to read something that's a little bit shorter is just a little bit more gratifying whenever you finish it, because you finish a little bit sooner. I feel like that's a lot of the way that I get out of my slumps, is by reading shorter books, so I can show myself that like I am reading and I am finishing books. There was serious things going on in this book, and it was very interesting, like the sci-fi political elements of it, because I feel like I still haven't learned everything about it. But then the lightheartedness of Murderbot and like what's going on in its mind is just so interesting too. He sits there and acts like he doesn't care about the humans. All he wants to do is watch his reality TV, which like same, like I totally relate to that. He's like, I don't feel love, I don't care about these people, and then like at the end of the day he does, and it just has this charm to it. I don't know, I think I'm gonna rate it like a 3.5, and I'm excited to read the rest of the series eventually. Then I ended up finishing the Heartstopper series, or at least what is out of it so far, by reading the final novella called Nick and Charlie. I feel like I've talked about Heartstopper so many times on my channel, but Heartstopper is following our main characters Nick and Charlie. Charlie came out the previous year and it wasn't taken very well by the kids in his class, and he got bullied a lot for it, and come into this year he ends up sitting by Nick in his homeroom. They become unlikely friends, and then things just kind of lead to another, and they are just so cute and precious. If you want the feeling of your first love, or that just nostalgic feeling of pure childlike lovey-dovey puppy love, you have to read Heartstopper. They are graphic novels, but this novella is actually just written like a regular book. It's a 4-star novella for me. Very heartwarming, very wholesome, just like the rest of the series. Then I read Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. First of all, this edition, absolutely stunning. I don't always love a sprayed edge on a paperback, but it works for this book. I feel like it's so pretty. Shout out to Bessie Lottie for sending this to me, because it's actually one of the books that I read in our book swap. This book is following our main character Tova, and Tova has been through a lot in her life. She kind of has a very sad backstory, but she is currently a janitor at an aquarium. That's why we have this beautiful atmospheric sea-like cover. And this is Tova, and this is Mr. Marcellus, the star of the show. You do get Marcellus's POV, and they become very unlikely friends. Never thought I would say this about a book, but I enjoy an octopus's POV. He is so sweet, so heartwarming, also just very like charismatic and a little bit cocky, but it adds to his charm. So they become friends, and then there's another POV and another thing going on as well. There's also a little bit of a mystery. Lottie described this to me as a cozy mystery, but also like more of a fiction book, and I would agree with that. I feel like the mystery isn't the whole story. The story is mainly just going through the everyday lives of these people, and you get to know them on such a deep level of the things that they've struggled with and been through, that you really just feel so much for them and connect to them on a different level. When I got to the end of this book and I was crying, I was not expecting that. I didn't realize how much the characters snuck up on me and how much I felt for them and just wanted them to be happy. This is such a heartwarming and wholesome story, and I'm so glad that Lottie gave me the push to read it. It's about love, loss, family, and just the human connection. The ending was just so good, and these characters felt so real and just very human to me. If you want to read a book about humanity, this is that book. I think I'm gonna rate this, I don't know, I'm between a 4.5 and a 4.75. The more I think about it, the more my rating goes up, just because of the way it was written. It is a little bit slower because you're getting to know the characters, and in the past I have said that I don't love a character-based book, and I think I was wrong, because with the character-based books I was reading, I just didn't like the characters. With this one, I loved the characters, and I think that's all it takes for me to enjoy a character-based book, and I feel like that makes a lot of sense. So with this book being a little bit slower, it makes sense because you need the time to get to know the characters. I don't know if it's a 5-star. I could see it maybe being a 5-star if I reread it, but I just absolutely loved and connected this story. If you are wanting to get into literary fiction, I highly recommend. Then I read the other book that I did in that book swap with Lottie, and that is Legend Born by Tracy Deonn. This is a YA, almost like fantasy sci-fi. It's actually a King Arthur retelling, which I knew nothing about King Arthur going into this, so it's just a telling for me. There's also a secret society. There's different ways of having magic in this series as well, which was really intriguing. I feel like with fantasy this year, I've just been reading a lot of the same thing. It's been very repetitive. So this was such a refreshing fantasy read. In this book, you're following our main character, Bree, and she just lost her mom in an accident. It was very sudden, so she's going through a lot of grief right now, and she is currently enrolled in an early college program at UNC, which is the University of North Carolina. And whenever she gets there, things just start happening. There's a lot of action in this book, but there is also a lot of like world building and things you need to learn about and know, because there's different like levels to the magic system and how it works with everything relating to King Arthur. I feel like because of the world building in a first fantasy, I almost never rate it 5 stars, but the writing in this was so good. There's so many different elements of things going on too, and I feel like you can't help but connect to Bree as our main character. There's also a little bit of a love triangle, which was also very fun to read. I love a subplot of romance, but you're mainly just following Bree's journey of grief and finding her way in the world with everything that she's figuring out as she goes along. There are also some trials in this book, but it's not the whole story. It's kind of just something to move the plot along a little bit more and to figure out more things as you go. Legendborn is a solid 4-star book for me. I cannot wait to read the rest of the trilogy. I feel like it might be a 5-star series, to be completely honest. I think that the reason I can't rate it any higher than a 4-star is just because I was still a little bit confused with the magic system, but that's gonna come with time. And I feel like going from this one to the next books in the series, I'm just going to love them. Then I read Will They or Won't They by Ava Wilder. This is following 2 actors and it's dual POV. Shannon and Lila are in this TV show together, and it's a super popular TV show, and they play 2 characters that are very infatuated with each other, and it's alluded to as the series goes on that they're eventually going to get together. And they have amazing chemistry, but in real life they actually cannot stand each other. I was really excited to read this because I felt like it was going to be like a very tension-filled romance because of the forced proximity and because of them having to be together on screen. So I thought that would have been a fun and interesting dynamic. And I don't really read a lot of books about actors, so I thought that would also be something kind of fun and different in the romance genre as well. But I didn't really love this. I feel like there was a lot of times where my interest was waning, and I just found myself not really caring about the story, but then sometimes I'd be like more interested in it. There was also some scenes for spice for the sake of spice, and personally I like spice, but whenever spice overtakes the plot, that's whenever I have a problem with it, because it just feels so unnecessary. And I feel like both characters did feel a little one-dimensional. Like they had things going on, but it wasn't really followed in further. That's why I'm gonna rate this a 3-star. I just didn't really care that much, unfortunately, and I just wanted like a little bit more out of it. And it was generally just like lacking a little bit for me because I feel like the story had a lot of potential. Now here's where things start taking a turn, and I feel like consecutively I'm enjoying the books that I'm reading, which makes a big difference whenever you're not enjoying a lot of the books that you're reading. Starting with Promise Me Sunshine by Cara Stone. I ended up reading this in a 24-hour readathon where I actually read for 24 hours straight, and this book is so well done. This book is following our main character Lenny, and her best friend just recently passed away. Best friend to the point where they're basically sisters. They grew up together, went through so many things together, they lived together, and they end up creating this live-again list of things that Lenny needs to do after her friend passes away to motivate her to do things and kind of feel like she can just live again, as the name of the list says itself. And Lenny is going through a rough time, obviously, with grieving her best friend, and doesn't really feel like she can commit to a full-on job right now, so she's kind of just taking very temporary babysitting jobs, and she takes one with this one family, and that family has an uncle who's kind of just hanging around. His name's Miles. Miles has actually been through quite a bit of grief himself, and he offers to Lenny to help her with that, even though they don't know each other very well. He is just very attentive, very sweet, and very acts of service-esque, which I love in a male main character. So they're both going through this live-again journey, and it is friends to lovers. I think that the way that friends to lovers was depicted in this book is probably one of my favorite friends to lovers tropes that I've ever read. I feel like it was so well done. They just genuinely make so much sense for each other, and they're so cute together. And the way that he helped her whenever he just like didn't have to, he barely even knew her, it's just so heartwarming. One thing you gotta know about me is I love a book where grief is depicted, and it's just so well done in this book. I'm between a 4.5 and a 4.75. I'm not 100% sure on my rating yet, so it's not a 5-star for me personally, but I really enjoyed this and I do highly recommend this book. Then also in that 24-hour readathon, I read Summer Romance by Annabelle Monaghan. This book is so bingeable. Since I was reading for 24 hours straight, this is exactly what I was looking for. Something fast-paced and easy read, bingeable, and I just absolutely devoured this. This is another 4.5 romance. This is singular POV following our main character, Allie. She just recently went through a divorce. Her mom passed away, and she is now a single mother, and she's kind of like learning how to live again herself, but she's also trying to figure out who she is without just being a mom or a wife. And one day at the dog park, she ends up running into this guy, and they kind of hit it off. They go on a little date together, and they said to themselves, this is nothing serious, you know, this is just a good old summer romance. Wrong. I do enjoy Annabelle Monaghan's writing a lot, and I really enjoyed the plot of this one. The ending was a little bit frustrating to me. That's why this wasn't a 5-star, because I honestly thought it was going to be, just because I was enjoying it so much. And I think the reason why I enjoyed this so much more than the other 2 Annabelle Monaghan books that I've read is because I didn't really like the plot of those 2 books, but I did enjoy the writing. I feel like the plot of this one just made a lot of sense. It was very interesting to read about somebody who's in their late 30s instead of somebody who is in their early 30s or their 20s, just because it is such a different dynamic. The main character in this book, Jack, is so wildly entertaining. He's just fun and quirky and weird, and I just like him a lot, and he's exactly what Allie needed while she's going through her divorce. And I feel like there's just a lot of lighthearted good moments in this book, but there's also like a lot of real deeper moments too, and I just really enjoy this. This is such a solid summer romance, and I think it's like a little bit shorter. Yeah, it's only 316 pages. I feel like it was well paced. I was entertained. I just really enjoyed it. Then I read Shiner by Amy Jo Burns. This is a literary fiction novel following this honestly weird town in the south where it's kind of given hillbilly, and basically they're a part of like a snake cult, which I was honestly really interested in. I love a book about cults, and I feel like the parts of this book, because there are 3 or 4 parts, I can't remember how many, but the first part of this book really loved. The second and third didn't love as much, but I feel like it started out really strong, and I didn't really love it as it kept on going along. That's why I rated it 3.5, and I was wanting to know more about the culty things, but I didn't get that much information. This book is kind of like being told a bunch of tea and gossip about a small town, which is really interesting. I just feel like I wasn't being told about the things that I was like really interested in. I also feel like the dynamics of this book with all the romances going on was very messy, which was also entertaining. I feel like I just wasn't truly captivated and intrigued throughout the entirety of it. There was a few times where I was reading it, but I wasn't like crazy interested. But the story itself is honestly kind of wild and shocking, and it definitely has an entertainment factor, so I do recommend this, but it's definitely not my favorite literary fiction book that I've ever read. I did like, however, the subtle mystery elements that were embedded in it, because the things that were like plot twisty, I had no idea were coming. Then I ended up doing a little reread. Since June was Pride Month, I figured I should reread Heartstopper. This is the first volume by Alice Oseman. I already talked about Heartstopper in this video. You guys know I already love it, and I really enjoyed my reread too. Honestly, it makes me want to reread the rest of the series. I'll probably just reread it before the 6th one comes out. We still don't have a date on that either, unfortunately, but I'm really excited for the 6th one. And again, I just really enjoyed my reread. If you haven't read this series, highly recommend. They're just super fast-paced graphic novels that are so wholesome and heartwarming. Like, you cannot help but love the series. The last book I ended up reading in Q2 was the first book in the Windy City series called Mile High. These are by Liz Tom Ford, and they're all interconnected romance books, so you truly can read them in any order, and you don't have to read all of them. This book is actually a very widely DNF'd book. A lot of people don't even try and read this first one, and they just move on to the other 4 books in the series, which is fine, to each their own, but I gave this one a shot, and I really enjoyed it. This is a solid 4-star romance for me, and there's also tropes in it that normally I don't like, but I feel like worked for me in this book for some reason. The whole series are sports romance, but this one specifically is a hockey romance, and we're following our 2 main characters, Xanders and Stevie. It's also set in Chicago, and I live in Illinois, so I've been to Chicago quite a few times, which makes it a little bit more atmospheric for me, because like the places that they've been to and just like the things they're doing, I feel like I can imagine better since I've been to Chicago so many times. Xanders is on the Chicago hockey team, and he is a very talented hockey player, but he's also kind of like a bad boy, a player. He's taking home new girls all the time, and to the public he honestly has a pretty bad reputation, but in real life he is just this sweetheart. He's just this little ball of mush, honestly this big teddy bear, and because of the way the media perceives him, nobody really knows that. He's also just a very blunt person. He's gonna tell you like it is, and he's not gonna lie to you, but he's also very like emotionally aware. But then comes in Stevie. She is actually a flight attendant for their hockey team, so they end up seeing a lot of each other, especially because as a professional hockey player they are traveling a lot, and they have a very banter heavy dynamic. They shoot the with each other, they mess with each other, but they're also very attracted to each other, and things kind of lead to another, if you know what I'm saying, like they do in romance books. And honestly, I was just wildly entertained throughout this book. It is a solid 4-star romance for me. I feel like in a lot of romance books, the female main character is talked about being very small and petite and tiny and all these other words, but Stevie isn't that. She's just a very normal girl. She talks about very normal things, and I feel like I myself related to that in her. She talks about her size fluctuating, not feeling confident in certain parts of her body. Some days are better than others. People commenting on her body, feeling like she can't wear certain things, and she really struggles with her confidence in that area. I feel like I just deeply related to that. There's also this one scene where they get all dressed up, and I just love any type of dressing up in a romance book. It's just gonna hit every single time. Stevie and Xander's don't have kids, but there are kids in this book, and they are so cute. There's so many elements to this book that I really enjoyed, and I cannot wait to continue this series. I highly recommend trying this one out if you DNF'd it, or if you moved on to reading the rest of the series, or if you haven't started the series yet. I feel like it's always worth it to give it a try. I really enjoyed it. And there you have it. That is my Q2 reading wrap up. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know if you have any thoughts on the books that I mentioned. I would love to hear them in the comments down below. If you guys did enjoy this video though, don't forget to like and subscribe. Like I said in the beginning of this video, let me know too how you like the wrap-ups. Do you like them monthly? Do you like them every other month? Or do you like them quarterly like this one? If you ended up watching until this point in the video, go ahead and comment down below the sunset emoji so I know who the real ones are who watched until the end. And if you want to keep up with me on the daily, go ahead and follow my socials. I've got Instagram, TikTok, and Goodreads. I post on those quite frequently, and they're always linked down below in every single video. Alright you guys, that's gonna be it for me today. I love you guys so much. Hope you're having an amazing day, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye guys. I think that Kit is a nasty little back crack. I'm gonna read a classic. Hi, why are you staring at me while you're making biscuits? That's a little weird. Melly, you're being weird. Yep, and there you have it. Anytime I film sit down videos now, my legs fall asleep. I should probably look into that or start stretching or something.